Hey guys, what is up? Welcome to this new, very weird, very strange podcast. I'm Colby.
I'm Daniel.
Thank you guys for tuning in to whatever this ends up being, because we don't really know.
That's so true. I have no clue what we're about to do.
Yeah, we met each other in a weird way through talking about online weird comics, so this is only right that we have a podcast about online weird comics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
So, we were talking beforehand. We basically both have like 5 really weird books that we think you guys should check out, and we don't think these books have been talked about, at least not to death, like a ton of books have. So, there's not a huge order, but we're gonna tell you about them and see if you like them.
Pretty much.
We didn't talk about this either. Do you want to go first? Or do you want me to go first?
I mean, it doesn't really matter. I just don't know which one I'm going to start with. So, I mean,
well, I'll throw this
in. What you want to do?
I will throw this in because a book that I've loved, and it is like one of the oddest books. And I think I've talked about it before a little bit, but I fucking love Prison Pit. And
okay.
It is like for anyone out there, not a children-friendly book by any means. Super weird, super strange. Basically, you have a pro wrestler type dude just thrown onto a little prison planet where he fights other horrible, god-awful creatures and animals and has the most random shit, like everything from getting arms cut off and slugs replacing them, to then those slugs doing sexual acts on said people, to like weird Nazi-type stuff and people using like pimples and weird stuff as weapons. It is like a super just gross out action book, but for some reason it has a lot of heart, and it's actually really fun to read. I think there's only like five or 6 volumes, and I think most of them are easy to get. It's like anything, there's like 2 volumes that are way too expensive, but the rest are very easy to find.
All right. I will go next with my first pick, which is about as weird as that. King City by Brandon Graham.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this at all?
I've heard that name, but I don't think I've ever read it.
Brandon Graham has done Prophet and King City and a book called Multiple Warheads, and it's all really bizarre. His style is almost like this kind of anime-inspired thing, which is strange. I'm not really a big anime person, but I like his brand of stuff. And the basic premise, from what I can tell, because it's my first, I really read this, but because it just kind of ends, it doesn't really like go to a major like spot.
Yeah.
Is that it's about a guy who's a cat burglar who, instead of just being a regular cat burglar, his backpack is literally a cat who helps him out and like disarms traps and stuff like that, and he's like robbing stuff. But he's also in love with this one chick, and they have their own little crazy adventures. And there's like a business corporations who's after all of them. And after a while, I don't know what's happening because it's more just about the city and the culture and the craziness of the place. And it's all drawn this really weird, like cartoony style. And it's also one of those books you only need to check out for yourself and see what you think, because like there's just so much weird going on to it. So,
see, I've heard of Multiple Warheads. I know a few people that really, really dig that book. And I hear great things about him as a writer, so I would not doubt that that's like an amazingly weird book. But no, sadly haven't read it. I need to check that out.
It's really creative, and it's one book too. So you just like $20 for a giant, like 500-page book. So
yeah, that's
really good.
One thing about, I think the more I look at a lot of these books, probably there a lot of those weirder, especially indie books. You can get like a super tight amount of pages for really cheap, and they're all these really bizarre stories of just like I was very close to putting some of the Stray Bullet stuff on there because I love Stray Bullets, and that's
nice.
I have a similar love with that, where they're so weird and they keep getting weirder, but I love that you can go out and buy like these $50, $20 books. It's like, here's just a bunch of Stray Bullets, go for it.
Yeah. Sure, like phone book size, which is really cool.
Yeah, I know. Like, there's a couple of those that, like, on a shelf, you put them next to like an omnibus, and they're just as big, and it's like, oh, that's cool. What's that? I'm like, oh, that's like the cheap knockoff version of an omnibus from an indie company, but it's just as amazing. Now I need to check that out. Actually, I had not heard of that.
Yeah, it's good.
I didn't put Stray Bullets on there. One thing book I keep recommending because it has just been like completely forgotten is Neverboy.
I love that book. I almost
Yeah,
put that one on mine.
yeah.
So
Also,
good.
it is so good. Anyone who hasn't read it? Sean Simon. He co-wrote Killjoys with Gerard Way. The book is essentially about an imaginary friend that wants to be real. Uh, Pretty basic, but goes into this weird like drug trippy area that you don't typically expect from this stuff. It's a book that I don't think got enough credit when it came out because I think a lot of people just passed it over for whatever reason. I cannot remember the. I need to look it up. I can't remember the artist off the top of my head, but I remember
I think it was Tyler something. I don't have the issues on me. I mean, I can look real quick.
Yeah,
it was Gerard did the variant cover for the first one.
Yeah,
because that's how I heard about it.
Yeah,
Tyler Jenkins.
Yeah, Tyler Jenkins. That's right. Yeah, though it's just this really odd book filled with really cool imagery and these really cool ideas, and again, it's got such a heart to it. The main character going through and just wanting this family and wanting to be real, and there's some really sweet moments with that. That I think from the outside you may not expect it to. I think people when they hear it's a story about an imaginary friend, they automatically jump to some other weird level that's not this at all. Like, this is a
yeah.
I don't want to say grounded because it's not grounded at all, but I think grounded in emotions. Like all the emotions in this book feel relatable. There's nothing in it that's like, oh, this is so just too obscure, too artistic. This is a really great book that just has a really fun angle, and I think you can get this book now pretty much from Amazon, eBay, anywhere for really cheap. Go to your local comic shop if they have it. It's definitely worth picking up.
Okay. My next pick's more of a more recent book, and the fact that really recent, but it's more well known. Probably is the best term, but it's one of the first books I read that I was like, "This is really bizarre," and I love it. Was Grant Morrison's Animal Man?
Ah, yes, I love that.
Which stuff. I feel like I don't have to say a lot on because a lot of people are kind of familiar with this book and the whole pitch and why everybody loves it. Should I explain the pitch, or you want to jump in on this? I don't know where to go without ruining the whole concept.
I think for people out there that want the like non-spoiler one, this is if you've ever wondered why there's people that love Animal Man or why people are so crazy about Grant Morrison, this is definitely one of those runs that you can jump into and really find out not just why Grant Morrison is such a amazing creator, but why Animal Man, when in the right hands, can be a truly astounding character.
Yeah, because it's a sack, so the character's great, but he's only got like 2 good runs.
Yeah.
It's like Jeff and his, and like I've read the Milligan stuff, but it's not good.
Yeah, no, I mean what you just said. Like, I'm a huge Animal Man fan. I literally only own the Grant Morrison and Jeff Lemire stuff. That's the only stuff I really care.
I have some Delano stuff I thought about reading. I just want a chance to sit down and read any of it. I've heard mixed results on those.
Yeah,
so
it's solidly okay sometimes. I mean, like I picked it up. Yeah, I picked it up. I picked up some of the singles from Awesome Books and Comics when I was living there, and they're good. But they're not, especially coming off of Morrison, what he would do with the character, and to the levels he would take the character. Again, if anyone, minor spoiler stuff, but like some of the final stuff is some of the most creative comic book storytelling there is of breaking the fourth wall, but in a way that never feels cheesy, even though if I explained it right now, it really should be.
Yeah, it's groundbreaking. Because all the stuff lean into it's like you're like it's not going to go there, and it does, and you're like, what?
Yeah.
Which even I knew the spoil, but still, like watching it unfold was still wild. So
Wild's a great example. Yeah, it is. It's so great, and just seeing. I mean, it's one of those stories where Grant Morrison puts that character through living hell, and I mean, the more and more you get in that book, it does get to a point where you're just like, what else are you going to put this dude through? And even the character himself, of course, being like, what did I ever do to deserve this?
Yeah, it's good though.
Yeah, well, and even like just what it says for comics culture and comics creators, and like, it's one of those books that it works on so many levels that if anyone out there listening hasn't picked it up or given it a chance, yeah, 100%. Because it's not even that many volumes, honestly, for most. I think it's like
26 issues, which now is like 3 volumes that I think are in print still. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, I know that they just had an omnibus not that long ago that you can still find most places for like around $100, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
Like I'm glad you put it on. Yeah, it is a great run, and it gets a lot of love, but it gets a lot of love for the right reasons. I mean, it is, like you mentioned, it's the reason anyone cares about Animal Man is essentially because of Grant Morrison or Jeff Lemire, but typically because of what Morrison did and what Lemire added on to.
Yeah.
God, no, yeah, I know we've talked about this a ton, but I really do hope one day Young Animal or somebody picks up Animal Man, does something with it, because, God, that
You
character.
know, when I've talked to Tommy Lee Edwards, one of the things I mentioned, because I asked him, I was like, so what about Animal Man? I mean, you got Young Animal, the title,
Yeah.
like, what's up with that? And he's like, there's been talk. And that's pretty much all he would say. I hope that he's not listening to this by any chance, and I didn't say too much, because that would be terrible to get sacked by higher-ups of DC. But
Hey, he can do what he wants right now. I think he's got a big enough name. He can.
yeah,
He'll
it's pretty cool.
Yeah,
So.
he's God. Especially just mentioning him, like having someone like him on art would be incredible for an Animal Man series because he has just like that gritty, cool nature that Animal Man can bring out. Oh, yeah, that's. I know this isn't like a dream issue of what we want to see, but my God, that. Yeah, like you meant you just said and what I've been bringing up. There's still so much room you can do with that character because you only have 2 great runs. You can add so much to his lore and be completely fine. Yeah. Man, I wish. See, my next one now, I wish I would have put something like that because my next one's not as. I don't love as much as that. But I do love, and it's another book that kind of has some connections to Young Animal with the Allreds, Art Ops.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I read the first issue of that book, or maybe the second. That was it. So.
Yeah, it's. You were talking off camera about Invisible. It has a very Invisibles type of vibe to it about this weird community of protectors of art, and the main character kind of being somewhat born or of the worlds of both art and reality. And again, a book that speaks on many levels of not just what a comic book is, but also how you read it and what you're reading, which typically is stuff I love, whether it be multiversity or what like Milk Wars does in its first issue is very similar, where it gets to that really like meta breaking point of every sentence you read. You're like, I get what's going on here, but this is clearly also about like 40 things in the real world too.
Yeah.
God, yeah, that. No, I know that could be an episode by itself, but wow, yeah, Milk Wars. I think Milk Wars is definitely for me inspired some of my picks on here because that's I think an honorary mention for me and you on any of the stuff. People out there, if you haven't read any Young Animal stuff, go pick that up.
It was so hard not to put it on here. Not gonna lie, I really considered putting some Young Animal on here.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I was so close to, but I feel like I talk about it so much on a weekly basis, and there's plenty of material for that, and we can definitely do more episodes about just Young Animal because, especially with them coming back in full force and Milk Wars being freaking awesome.
We got Eternity Girl pretty soon too. Where that's going to be, really.
I know. I'm really curious what's going on with Doom Patrol, just because of the constant nature. Like, I don't know where the delay is at, honestly, because I don't know if it's on Darrington's side, Way's side, or if there's something going on that we don't know about.
Exactly. It's such a hard decision to figure out what's going on there.
Yeah, because I think issue 12, like they had solicited for a long time, and to all knowledge, the way they talked about it, that it was pretty much done. So I do wonder if maybe something popped up that they want to delay it for reasons that they just story reasons or real life reasons that we don't know. Because who knows? But I mean, again, we're getting Cave Carson coming back. Eternity Girl is launching. Shade the Changing Woman. And Mother Panic coming back, with all the stuff coming back in a new way. I can't complain, especially with Milk Wars doing just freaking really unique, awesome stuff and being weird in a way that I didn't even expect from Young Animal, which I should by this point. But especially where like Casey and the Terry stuff goes, is I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, that was a new thing. I read that last week finally. Yeah. That issue 10, and I was just like, wait, they went there? All right, that's new.
And then I won't say a spoiler for this, but yeah, and then how that connects to the first part of Milk Wars, we're like, oh wow, they're sticking to this too. It's not even just a weird little side note. This is like the main thing.
Yeah, which is something about the Doom Patrol thing that people have been complaining about. It's always like weird side plot holes of like, what this all mean? It's like just random side thing, but
that's kind of part of Doom Patrol since Morrison really took over, is starting off with all these holes and filling them in later.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what made them so great. But to get back to what I was talking about, tie that back up, that is similar. Art Ops has some similar notions and similar ideas throughout it of just really, not long game, but a a overarching story that connects in ways that you don't necessarily expect, and it really comes to head at the end. It's another book that I think it's only like 2 or 3 volumes, and you can get them each for like $10, 10, $15 online, or most comic shops are probably like 10, 15. It's another really easy collect series. So what?
It's my turn. Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at one of the books I had in my pool.
Oh, no problem.
So my turn or your turn? Sorry.
Your turn. Sorry, I went off on a weird Milk Wars tangent there.
Yeah. Okay. Next thing I got is a book that I've read forever, and I bought the hardcover, deluxe hardcover, recently at the shop I work at, because it was a really good day, and I was like, screw it, it's really pretty. It's Punk Rock Jesus by Sean Murphy.
Yeah, I love that book. That's one of my favorite books.
Sweet. It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read this forever. I just bought the deluxe hardcover edition. That's got like 100 pages of like extra art and stuff.
That's so good.
All the backup like storyboards, and I forgot how much I enjoy this book. Flipping through it.
It's so good.
Yeah, it's one of these books that like if you like punk rock culture and grew up like Christian background, it's really fun to read because you can oddly relate to it in different ways. So
100%. Like it is I love Sean Murphy, and that's kind of where I really started loving his work, because it is a very unique voice, and he says stuff in that book that it's like you've heard before, but you still, when you see it in a comic format, especially with the characters he's dealing with, it's kind of it hits at a harder pace than a lot of other books.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean the basic pitch is, for people who don't know, is that it's this government organization. Help me out here if I'm wrong. Decides to clone Jesus.
Yeah.
With the Shroud of Turin, I think it is.
Yes.
Yeah, they cloned him with the DNA lifted out the Shroud of Turin, and they implant it to a virgin girl, and she gives birth to the second Christ. And some stuff happens, and at some point Jesus becomes a punk rocker and decides to take out Islam. So
yeah,
that's the basic premise. There's more to beyond that, but I don't want to spoil more than what I've already spoiled.
Oh yeah,
but it's fantastic. I mean,
it is.
It's all black and white, and it's really gritty. And if you've really seen Sean Murphy's style before, it's cool for that reason too.
Yeah, so. I mean, that when I think of Sean Murphy, like White Knight's kind of gone up there too now, but like Punk Rock Jesus and Tokyo Ghost are the first two books I think of, because it's his style, and his art style, especially in today's comics culture, is so unique. Because the only one I can think of that's even somewhat similar is Tommy Lee Edwards, but they're still very different, because they both they catch that, like, I guess Greg Capullo in his own way, like they catch that really gritty, like not realistic gritty, but still gritty and very like Japanese influenced, but not. I mean, I'm probably not even making much sense here, but like you'll know it when you see it. His art's gorgeous. Like, I can't think of too many. It's just nothing but compliments. Yeah, that book is incredible. I remember I bought that just kind of on a whim, because I like the title, I like the cover, and that's before I really knew who Sean Murphy was. And yeah, I read it in like 2 sittings and just fell in love with it. And I've talked about it a couple times. It's a book that I think also for a lot of people was like the first Murphy book they really made them fans of Murphy, because it's much like White Knight, it's pretty much entirely him. I mean, he's got no safety net, especially since it's not even colored. Yeah, it's his inks, his drawings, his words, his I don't again. I think he literally I don't think he did the lettering, but I think everything else pretty much he did.
I don't know. Let me check if I remember here.
I could be off.
I just realized that Shelley Bonda did the editing for this, apparently.
Oh. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, apparently she's listed as editor on this copy that I have, which granted, this could be an older copy for all I know. But see, the lettering on this is Tom Clean, who does Doom Patrol now, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's classic Vertigo letter, dude.
Yeah, no, he again, it's like I did not know Shelley Bond was involved. That's awesome. That's really cool.
It all goes back to Vertigo for you and I, it seems like.
I know, it really does. Like, it's weird how much you can trace everything back to like 4 or 5 things. It's like, the more I think about even like music or any kind of art, it's almost sad when you think about like you just trace everything back. You're like, oh, it all comes back to this, and then you kind of like learn where they were influenced, and then they all go back to this. It's almost like every like 2 generations there is truly something that just captures everyone's attention, and it influences everything until the next big thing happens, and they just kind of all follow that trickle down effect.
Exactly.
Gotta just follow it back to the beginning and see what the first thing was.
And that's why Vertigo was so great, and it
Yeah.
still is great. Not as much as it used to be, but
Yeah, I mean, they keep talking about this is the year they're supposed to do a soft relaunch of some kind, and
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
I don't know what they're gonna do. I mean, there's so many other books and companies right now that seem to be trying to tap back into that market that Vertigo was all about. And Image for a long time had it. I just think Image in the past 2 or 3 years, I think they just put out too much almost.
There's a new Image #1 every week, and it's
Yeah.
very hard for me to stay on with one.
Yeah.
More than like 4 issues.
Yeah, because I mean, there was that time period between like 2012 to 2014, maybe 2015, where they had a good amount of #1s, but nothing crazy, and like everything they were putting out was super solid, had an audience, was great, and then at some point they were just greenlighting basically every good idea that came through, and yeah, you end up with every week it's new image first by so and so, new image first by so and so, and you're like, oh, that seems interesting, and instead of having like a Saga or a Southern Bastards or a Wiccan Divine, you have these like 30 series you kind of forget exist in a month.
Yeah. There's some really cool stuff. I mean, there's one that came out last week that looked kind of neat called Versus.
Yeah.
I had a chance to pick it up, so I had a stack. So, I mean,
yeah,
but the concept looks really neat. So
I can't remember. There was one not too long ago I picked up too that was really. I wish I had next to me. There's a few every now and then I'll walk by and be like, oh, that looks really interesting. I'll pick up and I'll typically enjoy it. They just, like you said, when you have that amount of books coming out, it's so hard to keep up or to even want to keep up because you're like, okay, there's this one. I think it was a God Complex that I picked up not too long ago. That was.
Oh yeah, saw that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. It just didn't. Yeah, it didn't quite make my pool. I'm still and like. There's so many books like Wiccan Divine that are still coming out, but they come out in such a weird manner that it's like a special here and there now.
Yeah.
I mean, also great books. Again, Image. We also talked about that off mic, where it's like it was hard not to put books like Saga or Wiccan Divine or those books on there, but they also have such a huge audience. I think most people that listen to this probably know those already. If you don't, definitely pick them up, but you definitely should. Although that brings me to my next one, which was actually part of the New 52, but it was one of their weirder books, which was Frankenstein, Agent of Shade.
Never got a chance to read that. I've wanted to.
It's so good. It's Jeff Lemire and then Matt Kent picked it up, who are two of my favorite writers. It dove into that really Morrison-influenced side of the DC universe, where you have basically the same Frankenstein that Morrison wrote in Seven Soldiers, teaming up with some really odd characters, and them going on these just insane weirdo missions, like honestly, like pretty much Doom Patrol level of just not quite as meta or fourth wall breaking, but the same amount of levels of weird as dealing with reality breaking oddball things. That I feel like that's something I love about DC, is that they have that side of the universe that almost no other comic company has well. Like Marvel doesn't quite. They've never really found a way to have that same kooky, weird magic side that you can have that level of weird stories. Like Doctor Strange can have some really fun, cool stuff, but never got to the point of like Constantine or Doom Patrol. And again, a lot of that is because of what Vertigo would later on do, or the early beginnings of it. But like Frankenstein, Agent of Shade, it just had it was so fun, and every issue is this fun little action adventure that brings up very interesting points and very different topics of the DC universe that you don't typically think about. That's one thing I did love about New 52 when it first came out, is they had 4 or 5 just very odd books that they ran with too for a while. I think Frankenstein and Shade, it's only like 2 or 3 volumes, and
it's like 2 or 3. Yeah.
Yeah, it's again solid, very great, and just if you're looking for a fun monster book of different monsters fighting big monsters in the DC universe, this is definitely the book to go in a way that I hope that with books like, especially nowadays, with books like Metal selling the numbers they are, I mean, that's a part of the DC universe that nowadays is taking center stage. And if you want to see kind of that level of weird, but back a few years ago, I would definitely suggest that.
Yeah. All right, it's my turn. Mine's actually is a image book that I feel is super underrated, and in some cases actually is my life in a comic book form, which is bizarre, but there's elements of the comic that remind me of myself. It is called Little Depressed Boy by Sean Struble and Cine Grace.
I love that. I love Little Depressed Boy.
Little Depressed Boy is actually my life. Him being sad, trying to find love is me sometimes. I actually worked in a movie theater, and he works in a movie theater at some point. Little Depressed Boy goes to an Andrew Jackson Jihad show, and I've been to an Andrew Jackson Jihad show. There's so many similarities for me in this book.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
I love it.
Yeah, that's
a
awesome.
lot.
That's awesome you picked. Yeah, no, I had definitely had a point in my life where I related a ton to that book. Stephen Struble, the author Struble, he's lived where I live right now for a long time. So a lot of the places that they go in the book is like semi based on stuff around the Amarillo area, and that's cool. And like the concert trip to Oklahoma City, that's a trip I've made several times since I've lived here. The Cena Grace actually. If you guys don't know, I also do a show called Blah Blah Comics on the Night Nerd, and he actually did. Cena Grace was actually on an episode of the Night Nerd not too long ago. He did a big interview for Iceman with Lance over there, and dude is very, very, very nice. Seems like a super cool guy, and yeah, that Little Depressed Boy is an incredible book. That's so cool you put on there because I was so close to putting that on my series on these as well. Like
naturally,
very close.
Apparently, you and I have the same taste for most books.
Very, very close. Like I literally was looking at my list before we started, and there's this one I'm about to mention. I almost replaced with Little Depressed Boy, so I'm glad I didn't. But that's awesome. Yeah.
But yeah. So
I'm hoping that's one series I never got to read. There's I think I don't know if it's the final one or the newest one that he did. I never got to read that one. Like I've read the first.
It's good. I mean, I haven't pulled out since I got it from like work, but yeah, it's really good. So I recommend it.
That is definitely a series that out of all these series, I think that is the one that I don't think gets enough love. Yeah,
it's also one that supposedly Jonah Hill was supposed to be working on or something. Like one of the guys from Nerdist were supposed to be working on. Was it Jonah Ray? One of those dudes was supposed to be working on a movie on what happened to that. But I heard there was talks of a movie recently, the past year. So.
Oh, I would like that. Yeah, that would be a great like Ghost World type of movie. To be honest, you could 100% pull that off. I would be interested in like if you would go full on Strange and have like the Beanie Baby look for the main character or not.
Well, if you've seen Frank, you could probably do it.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you could go. You could totally, especially in this environment of what people are willing to accept in movies and not look at as weird. You could totally get away with it. I think.
Yeah, I mean, a couple years ago, Frank was weird, which I haven't seen Frank in forever. But I mean, it's the same idea. So.
That's true. I think you could definitely get away with it. Oh man, I would love that. That's awesome. Yeah. See, now I wish I had a better pick here because I just continued on. When I put Frankenstein on here, it made me think of another book that I think it got a ton of buzz when it first came out, and then the same at the time it just swallowed up. I hear no one talking about it anymore, so I decided to put it on here. The New 52 launch of I, Vampire.
That's one that I missed because I got into comics, but at the same time 52 was really happening. Oh, okay. Like really got into it. So like I remember seeing the pictures and like the covers, but didn't know what the big hoopla was.
Yeah, so. It's weird because the covers and if you just look at that, it definitely looks like a typical like teen romance, like it's vampires and stuff, but in all actuality like very, very dark. It deals with it's kind of almost the reverse of Frankenstein where it deals with like a very dark part of the DC universe. And deals with like these just horrible, horrible things. And the first, I want to say 10 issues or so. I mean, it's just astounding work. I was, of the mindset when 52 came out. I bought a lot of random books. That's kind of like when I started getting back into comics. And that was a series that I missed for a while. But then I started hearing like all the hype behind it. I finally gave into it, and I'm glad I did because yeah, it's a book looking back that. Even today, I have moments where I want to go back and read it because it goes places that so few DC books go. and knowing it was part of the main line at the time is very interesting. I mean, honestly, like the New 52 when it first launched, that first like six to 8 months had some really unique stories and really cool stuff coming out of it. Of course, towards the end, like tampered off into some very odd directions. But I Vampire was one of those books that I wish they would have modeled more after. Especially today, it's a book that had it been in Young Animal or like a Vertigo series, I think it would have lasted longer and would have had
Totally.
a bigger audience. But yeah, it's a book that I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, and it's one I really hope it could encourage a lot of people out there to at least pick up the first trade and give it a try because it's very fun, very cool stuff.
Okay. My final pick is actually my favorite book that's out on the stands. That's not Doom Patrol, because you and I pretty much agree we weren't going to do Doom Patrol as a challenge to ourselves to like pick some other Doom Patrols. Would have been Grant Morrison love chat for 5 hours.
Pretty much.
So my favorite book on the stands besides Doom Patrol is a book called Deadly Class by Rick Remender and Wes Craig. The basic premise, it's about a guy named Marcus who's like this not slave kid, but he's like this homeless kid, and runs into these assassins one day, and they're like, hey, how you join our assassin school? You're pretty good, but by the way, you can't kill anyone when you get there. So that's the basic pitch, but the whole story itself is like this ongoing, like, Breakfast Club meets Hogwarts / Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas / just 80s in general, and a lot of it has to do with like the 80s underground and like half time the characters listen to like the Smiths and the different artists at the time and various things. It's just really cool, like 80s nostalgia trip type book, but really sweet and sad all at the same time too. Like really angsty is great. So that's my favorite book that's out pretty much on the stands right now, besides Doom Patrol. So
yeah, I know a lot of people that do love and swear by Deadly Class. I still need to read it. I need to pick it up. I constantly mean to, especially when they have like sales at the comic store or something.
Yeah, and the show's there's a show that's just been coming out with at some point, so.
I know, God, there's so many cool shows coming out this year, like, that is where I'm going to lose probably so much money having to get stupid streaming services, especially since they announced that Doom Patrol is going to be involved in Teen Titans, at least a little bit.
I saw that.
It's like, I'll be honest, I was not probably going to be that interested in the first few episodes of Teen Titans, or Titans, whatever they want to end up calling it, but if Doom Patrol's in it, I'm more curious now. I just want to know which version of Doom Patrol is going to be in it, because
exactly.
I mean, they'll probably go just like the typical, like the 60s, 70s, like really kooky, crazy Doom Patrol, since they're going to have Beast Boy in it, but I would still love if they, instead of doing that, if they jump to like a Morrison or Way influenced Doom Patrol and just go super far out there and have Teen Titans have to deal with that shit. I
mean, look at this. You would still get freaking Robot Man in live action. Like that's something you never get to see. Like, that's still pretty cool. And Negative Man, at least.
Yeah. I want Flex. If I can get Flex Mental live action, I'm gonna lose my shit. That's all I'll say. I'd love it.
Hero of the Beach.
Yeah, it'll be so cool. Man, do Danny the Street, Danny, whatever you want to do, whichever version of Danny, do it. It'd be a hard sell, but my God, I'd love that. Yeah, Deadly Class though. No, I would. I'm looking forward to that show, but looking forward to reading once I get some time to actually sit down and read Deadly Class, because I do want to devote. I don't want to just pick up a trade and like forget about it in a month. I want to actually sit down and read like the first 2-3 trades worth, so I can
it's up. It's up to 6 volumes right now. It's on hiatus, I think, until March. So you have some time, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I love, like, Rick Remender, when he is on, he writes some awesome, he's written some of my favorite stuff, and when he's going for it and like bringing his A game, he's up there with the best of the best for me personally.
I'm actually in issue 9, by the way, in a letter. So.
Oh, cool.
Which is kind of cool to say. It's like having a comic book letter. So.
That is awesome. Yeah, I don't think I've ever done that, unless I've missed one day, which I'd feel horrible about. But I don't really write in typically too much. Like,
yeah,
I've done a couple. Like I think I did the Kid Lobotomy, the first or second issue.
Really?
Yeah, but the problem was they didn't say what kind of format it would be in. It was just like, I know why I didn't get written into it, because the first was like, oh, write what you think of the book, and then by the second issue they published it, and it was like nothing but, oh, I see you're supposed to write it like you're a guest from the hotel. I didn't do that.
Well, they didn't tell me that either, so I need to do one at some point. So
yeah, that was my problem, because I read the letters like the second or third issue. I'm like, oh, Yeah, mine doesn't work in this format. I'm sorry. Yeah, like you mentioned, for people out there listening that know us or have heard either of us talk before, yeah, we didn't put a Young Animal or like Umbrella Academy or something on there, mostly because then it just becomes just talk about Grant Morrison or Gerard Way again for an hour, which is
Yeah.
always fun. But there's other great people out there like everyone we mentioned here, from Rick Remender, Matt Kent, Jeff Lemire, Steven Struble, fucking everyone we mentioned on this show. Like they have
Sean Murphy,
Sean
Brandon
Murphy.
Grimm, Cynic Grace.
Yeah, there's
the Allreds.
Yeah, all right. They're all so many great artistic people in the comics world. I think that's one thing to take from this episode. If you guys don't typically read the weirder stuff, know that there's so much of the even within DC and Marvel, there's a lot of more obscure parts of that universe that don't get the love they deserve. And I highly just go out and seek those out because sometimes those are the funnest and best stories in those weird corners.
Yeah.
Well, I think, unless you have more to say, I think this might be the inaugural episode.
I think that's it. I mean, I did my 5, so that's all I got. So.
Yeah. Well, I want to say, if whoever is listening out there, thank you so much, and please, if you're watching us wherever we end up posting it, leave a comment below on what are your like fave 5 weird, obscure books or books that you want to kind of promote that you don't think get the love they deserve.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear just what people, not only what people want, what people think are underrated, but also just what people think is weird. Because depending on who you talk to, that changes dramatically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, everybody's taste is different. Like pizza, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
So.
I can't get over the fact that we're living in a world where Metal, which seems like a book that on paper only me and like 5 other people should love, is like the best-selling event of like the past 20 years. That
Metal is freaking great.
Yeah, that's every blah blah for the past like 6 months now. We've kind of run out of nice things to say. We're just like, I can't believe this series is still going this well, and that all the tie-ins are actually fun too. That's what's blowing my mind more, is that like the side stories are actually decent and interesting. They're not just like shitty. Here's how this happened.
Yeah, this week it's a Wild Hunt.
Yeah, the Morrison co-written one.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I will 100% be picking that up. Milk Wars Part 3, whatever. There's other stuff, but that's all I really care about.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm hoping. I say that now, and yeah, that's literally all I can think of. So again, thank everyone out there for listening, and give us a like, subscribe, tell us what you want out of the show. Tell us if you have a great name for the show.
Hey, we don't have a name. That'd be great.
Yeah. So thank you again for listening.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.